You're watching another round of with just 15 defeats. I'm Teekosey and thanks for joining me. I just want to take this opportunity to ask you to check out the channel. There are a range of prediction and breakdown videos that you can enjoy. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the videos. Give us a thumbs up and provide any comments that you have. I really want to hear from heavyweight boxing fans from all around the world. So without further ado, I want to move forward with today's video, which is a breakdown of the heavyweight boxing clash between Chagaev and Browne. This was competed for out in Russia. Now, in this video, we're going to have a full breakdown. Now, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I like to have a full breakdown where we go round by round with a brief summary of each round so we can really dissect the fight and really kind of work out what happened and agree on what the results were for each round, really, and work out and understand how the fight changed and how the fight was won. Okay, so if you've watched my prediction video, you'll know that I opted for Lucas Browne. I thought it would be right place, right time for him, right opponent, and well, I was proved right on this occasion. So if we move into the first round, the first thing I'm going to say is let's talk about the size difference between the two guys. Straight away you could see Lucas Browne much bigger than Chagaev, much bigger. But what I will comment on was that Lucas Browne, for me, for my money, he looked to be in the best shape of his life. Didn't look like he was carrying much timber. He looked in good shape. He looked in good shape for a big guy. Whereas Chagaev, he looked like he was carrying a little bit around the waist, a little bit more than we've seen in previous fights, to be perfectly honest. So that was a bit of an immediate thing that I noticed straight away. So as the first round started, Chagaev, he was the guy that was pressing the direction of the fight. Wasn't throwing a great deal, but he was pushing forward and pressing Browne. But Browne was pot-shotting, using his reach, but Chagaev was looking to get in close. Didn't get a great deal of success in the first round, and all round there was a lack of any telling shots in that first round. But just for the accurate pot shots that Browne landed, I give Browne the first round. So the second round, that really started how the first ended, to be perfectly honest. Browne was consistently firing out those straight hands in the face region of Chagaev. Some were landing, some weren't, but he was just putting it out there. He was being busy. And Chagaev only really got any joy when Browne allowed him to come in close and try and rough him up. And there was 2 or 3 occasions where Chagaev did land these, and one even made Browne kind of jump right out of the way, but again, I'm going for Browne in that round. So the third round, this was slow, pretty boring, but both managed a couple of decent attacks, but really nothing of any note. And if you've watched my breakdown videos before, you'll know that when there's a lack of action, I'm hesitant to really score it either way. I don't believe that guys deserve a round based on having one extra punch or just do you know what I mean, just the smallest amount of difference. For me, it's not enough. And to be perfectly honest, I score this as a tied round, and so we're going with 2 to Browne so far. 1 is a nothing round. The fourth round, the first minute was all Browne. He looked like he wanted to take Chagaev out. He was throwing good punches, a good variety of punches, but then after 1 minute, completely slowed out, completely died out, and Chagaev, no output whatsoever until about the last 20 seconds, and he landed 2 quite interesting, 2 quite good rights, and they were the most telling punches of the entire round by a million miles. But just because of the persistent output and the regular shots that Browne was landing, he gets a third round. He gets a third round on his side after 4 rounds. So the fifth round started, and it started well for Browne. He was dancing about, he had a lot of confidence, and you could see that he was visibly frustrating Chagaev with the movement. But halfway through the round, Chagaev lands like an overhand left right on the top of Browne's head, and Browne kind of stiffens up slightly. Not massively, but you can see his legs kind of start to stiffen up. And what I noticed was that Chagaev didn't go in for it. He did not go in for it. It was quite bizarre. Like, I know it wasn't a major stiffening of the legs or a major wobble, but Chagaev could have gone in for the killer, but he didn't, and they just continued to fight through that. Now, because of that telling shot, I give Chagaev his first round. It was his first round after 5. But then we move into the 6th, and this was the game changer. This is when the fight really started to get really, really interesting. Chagaev was clearly confident from the punch that he landed in the previous round, and he began to have a lot of success in the exchanges. There was a lot of exchanges, and he was really getting close, landing some really good left and right. And then, bang! A left hook right in the mouth, right in the kisser, and Browne was down. He was down. He was really shook up about it. He was really surprised, but he managed to get up relatively quickly. He managed to shake himself off, but Chagaev did go in for the kill this time. He showed killer instinct, and really, Browne could have gone down 2 or 3 more times, but he managed to stay on his feet. And to be perfectly honest, the referee could have stopped this fight. I've seen fights stop for a lot less. Chagaev was throwing bombs, and this could have been over. This could have been over after 6, but the bell saved him. The referee allowed the bell to save Browne, and he was. To be honest, I think he was quite lucky. He was quite lucky that he managed to survive that round. And between rounds, you could see that Chagaev, he'd obviously put a lot into that, trying to put Browne away. He was blind hard, and you could see that he was really tired when he got into the seventh round. And I think we all know that when a guy has been nearly knocked out or they've been dropped, they manage to survive a round, they go into the next round and they try and put everything on the line just to really go for it, to prove a point and say, look, I haven't got much left, but what I have got left, I'm gonna put out there and see if I can stop this guy, and because I need to stop him. I haven't got a lot left, and that's kind of what Lucas Browne did. He really went for it, and he had a lot of success. He threw uppercut after uppercut after uppercut, and he pressed the action. He actually pressed the action. Like a lot of the previous rounds, a lot of the earlier rounds, Chagaev was pressing the action, and Browne was allowing Chagaev to do that, and he was countering, he was pot-shotting. But in this round, you could see there was a difference. He knew that he needed to go for it, and he did. He pushed the action. He was throwing good shots out there, and he had good success, and he clearly won that round. So he clearly won that round. But then we move into the 8th round, and this was really even. Nothing. There was really very little action to sway me either way, to be perfectly honest. I think both guys were trying to get their energy back to try and survive for the later rounds. So nothing really happened. And the 9th round, this was similar, but what I noticed in this was that Lucas Browne, he had a spring in his step. His head appeared to be cleaned. And what this really showed to me, to be perfectly honest, was that Chagaev didn't really have that killer instinct. In these last 2 rounds, he should have been putting it on Browne to try and put him out there. He didn't do that in the slightest. He blew the chance. And for him, I think he will be looking at it thinking it was disappointing that he did not go for it in those 2 rounds where he had the chance. To be fair to him, he was probably completely knackered. He probably had nothing left. So that's just the way it is. And then we move into the 10th and what would become the final round of this fight. Now, what was interesting was that within a few seconds, the fans were chanting for Chagaev. They were really chanting his name, and you almost feel like, do you know what? Chagaev he could actually do this, and he's going to get a second wind, and he's going to take out Browne with another big shot. And it did fire him up, and he did go in for the exchanges, and he dominated the round for 2 minutes. He literally dominated that round for 2 minutes. It was his round. But then he threw a right and he opened up. He let his left hand drop, and Browne just popped out. He just popped out a straight, short punch, and it was right on the button. It was right on the button, and Chagaev dropped. That was it. He was down. He was down on the canvas. He did manage to get up, but then the difference here, when Browne was injured, Chagaev kind of just did not show that killer instinct. Maybe it was a size difference that Browne, when he had dropped Chagaev, he went in for the kill and he just threw bomb after bomb, heavy rights, one after the other, and he kept on raining down on Chagaev. He was using every ounce of energy that he had left in his body, and then the referee came in and stopped the fight. And to be honest, it was a good referee stoppage. Chagaev looked like he was basically saying, "Come on, I wasn't out," but the fact is he was taking some serious damage, and the referee stopped it. So it was a good stoppage, and we now see that Lucas Browne, he wins this fight, and he moves forward. And in theory, he's a regular strap holder. So just a quick summary of the rounds. So we had 9 rounds, and it was finished in the 10th. Through the 9 rounds, I had Browne winning 4. I had Chagaev winning 2, plus the knockdown, and then I had 3 rounds which were negligible. Really, they could have gone either way, and I'm sure that many judges would have swayed it possibly one way or the other, and it could have been quite a wide victory for Browne, or it could have been a comprehensive victory for Chagaev. Either way, those 3 rounds would have swayed it, and that's why I kind of, as I said, I don't really like giving rounds when there's literally nothing in it. There's literally nothing in it. But what did we learn from this big fight? What we learned from this big fight was that Browne can be dropped. He was dropped by a smaller guy. We also learned that he can survive. Now, he did survive a heavy knockdown, but to be perfectly honest, Chagaev let him survive. He let him out there, really. So he has survived. Whether he'll survive against bigger guys, time will tell. We also know that Browne can knock someone out, and to be honest, we found out, or we confirmed, as I predicted in the prediction video, that Chagaev was pretty much finished. I don't think he's going to get any big fights after this, so this was probably his last big fight. He may continue like a lot of these guys, but I don't think he's going to get to the summit of the division again. Like he's been on the edge of the division, the top guys for years and years and years. As we said, he fought Klitschko and he lost, but he's been beating a number of other guys. But to be honest, I think this is a big loss for him. It's a big loss, but it's a massive win for Browne. It puts him up in that top division, the top of the division. But to be perfectly honest, my opinion on Browne hasn't really changed. I think he's probably one of the weaker guys in the division. I think most people in the top 10 would be able to comfortably beat him. So to be perfectly honest, I think he needs to be cleverly managed by his team about the opponents that he fights. Now, there's that whole WBA tournament where the winner of this fight would move on to fight Oquendo. Whether that will happen, who knows? I think Browne would probably win that fight as well, so that's not a bad fight to take. But then if he moves forward into the second half of the WBA tournament, any guy on the other side will probably beat him. So that's how they really need to think about how they're going to manage him. And to be perfectly honest, I think that a lot of guys out there in the division are going to be calling out Browne now. You could get guys like Chisora who will call him out to get a good fight. And to be perfectly honest, Chisora, he could do it. He could beat Browne. There's a lot of guys that could beat Browne, or even just give Browne a good fight, a real 50-50 dust up. So it'll be interesting to see who he fights next. So thanks for watching this video. If you like it, give us a thumbs up, and also give us your comments, give us your feedback. Am I right? Am I wrong? I really want to hear from any heavyweight boxing fans from around the world, and we'll be seeing you in the next round of With Just 15 Defeats.